All human behavior is essentially comprised of two things: run away from pain and run to pleasure. Run away from pain and run to pleasure. Pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure. If we place ourselves right between pain and pleasure, we become the gatekeepers and we will never have to worry about money ever again. Like, yes, Ferris Bueller.
It's getting pretty tough coming up with new illnesses.
All you need is.
They bought it.
Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a medical epidemic, one that has gripped the nation: painkillers. This story, in true drug crime fashion, will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about the intersection between medical and criminal responsibility. I'm an Allen RX, and I'm a licensed pharmacist with over 10 years of experience in the pharmacy field. But today, I'm not here in a professional capacity. I'm here, just like you, to speculate on what I think happened in certain situations using the limited information that's been provided to all of us. So, if you're a part of a healthcare team or just a devoted fan of the true crime community, drop us a white coat and your opinion in the comment section. Click that dark heart and let's weigh in. This new docuseries on Netflix sheds light on the deepest and darkest corners of the pharmaceutical world, focusing on the Sackler family and PD Pharmaceuticals. For all intents and purposes of this video, we will refer to it as PD Pharmaceuticals because this is an ongoing investigation and I don't need no problems with these people. Evidently, they're dangerous. So let's unravel these threads. As a pharmacist, I've seen the effects of Oxycontin, good and bad, firsthand. In this series, Painkillers, Oxycontin promised to deliver pain relief, but delivered nothing but addiction and ruined families and communities nationwide. It takes us on a journey and it unveils the origin story, maybe even the villain origin story of the journey from drug development up until distribution of Oxycontin. The Sackler family, through the nephew Richard, introduced Oxycontin. It's FDA labeled indications for patients who require long-term, around-the-clock pain management by opioids. They introduced Oxycontin with the promise of revolutionizing pain management, but at what cost? The series starts with a scene of this big castle-like chateau-style home, but is empty, except for this older guy. He's laying in bed, he's asleep, but is he? He's awakened by the sound of the smoke detector, or what we think is a smoke detector in the beginning. For some reason, cannot get this sound out of his head. He's downstairs, he's very chaotic. The dog is barking, he keeps hearing the ringing. His staff or the people that work in his home, he's throwing things at this smoke detector. He's still hearing the beeping in his head. At this point, I'm thinking there's some type of symbolism with this beeping that's going on inside his head. The story in this series is told from the perspective of this investigator, Edie Flowers, and how she pretty much got on the case, how she got involved in the situation. Her storyline runs parallel to, this guy, Glenn, who's so-called Patient Zero. Well, Patient Zero, I like to call him Patient Zero, even though he's not the initial, first person to be on Oxycontin, but he's the only person that they follow his story from beginning when he first got injured up until the point where he's actually addicted to Oxycontin. So I refer to Glenn as Patient Zero, and we follow his journey throughout this whole series. But there's a statement that Edie makes at the very beginning of this series, and it pretty much sets the tone and lets us know where the root of this whole thing started with, and that was with Uncle Arthur. And that's how I like to call him Uncle Arthur, because he's the uncle of Richie, who's the one who created the Oxycontin.
Someone in that family realized that the big money in medicine was in sales and marketing.
This story, it focuses more on the behind the scenes drug development up into the drug distribution. She talks a little bit about that. Each storyline, they're telling us what's happening, to patients each step of the way, this investigator, and what's happening with the family, the drug company. The Sackler family and the drug company, they created Oxycontin. Then we have the dealers or the sales reps. The sales rep with ponytails, as they call them in the series. Drug dealers with ponytails, that's what they call them. But as a side note, that little plushy pill is kind of cute. I know, I shouldn't say it, but I wonder if they sell them on Amazon. I'd love to have one like here in my studio. Back to the story. And then you have the users, the patients, or the addicts. Arthur was a practicing psychiatrist at the time. Back then, the only solution to mental instabilities were a lobotomy, which is an invasive procedure where...
But it would enter around this area, and then as it was in there, they would make a sharp 40-degree turn towards the midline. Again, the idea is to cut this, to sever the connection between this prefrontal cortex and the thalamus. By doing that, you render them inactive.
Arthur realized that's just a one-stop shop. That's just a one-shot deal. He needs something that was going to be ongoing, something that was going to keep people coming back and paying. He figured with the right customer, he could have a patient for life. He bought a drug company, and the largest pharmaceutical or drug advertising company, first thing they created was lobotomy in a bottle, Thorazine. So that was just the beginning. Then when they landed the deal with this particular drug, they created the first blockbuster drug, which is Valium. Some of you may be familiar with Valium or diazepam. It's a benzodiazepine. It's usually used to treat anxiety, seizure disorders. Some of you may be more familiar with it as a pre-med. Say, for example, you have a dental procedure coming up, or you have to go get an MRI, you're feeling claustrophobic, or you're nervous about it. They write a prescription for 2 pills. You take one the day of the procedure, take the other one 30 minutes prior to the procedure. Something to help you relax before you go in, so you actually will come in. That was the first blockbuster drug. This made the family wealthy. And with this newfound wealth, Uncle Arthur, he wanted to create a legacy. He wanted a legacy. So he put their family name on anything, and he would give money to anybody that would accept the universities, the Met, Smithsonian, just wherever they could donate money to, promote the Sackler name, he was doing it. And just like any other rich family, waiting on him to die. Excuse me, I need to see a doctor. Sir, you need to sign in first. May 26, 1987. He drove himself to the hospital. My name is Dr. Arthur Sackler, and I'm having a heart attack.
I want to make it clear that the appearance of